I want to talk to you about the top business tax credits and deductions for the in-home care industry. So we're going to speak about tax deductions for home healthcare workers, okay? And what kind of home care tax can you actually deduct? So this is really important. I want you to stick around till the end of today's conversation. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sweaty Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you're all doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you were to ask me. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. In today's conversation, I want to speak to you about the top business tax credits and deductions for the in-home care industry. So we're going to have tax deductions for home healthcare workers and other things. So this video has two main parts. So first, we have deductions and credits that are permissible for the home care clients. And then we're going to have in the second category, the deductions and credits that are allowed for the care worker. So first category, the home care clients, and the second category, the care worker. So let's first talk about the deductions and credits that are permissible for the home care clients. So the question is home care tax deductible? The thing is, home care can be expensive, nearly $4,500 per month on average, but there are ways to help make it more affordable. So certain home care services you've paid for yourself, your spouse, or another dependent can qualify as a deductible expense on your taxes. So to qualify for this tax break, expenses need to be itemized, and you are only allowed to deduct the amount of expenses that exceed your adjusted gross income by 7.5%. Very important. So what can you deduct? Well, according to IRS publication 502, in general, only medical services performed by a home care worker can be deducted. Some examples of qualifying services include giving medication, wound care, and help with the management of diseases and long-term conditions, okay? And personal care and household maintenance services are not usually eligible for deduction, with some exceptions. So chronically ill patients may deduct these expenses if a licensed healthcare practitioner has certified that the person meets either or both of the following conditions. So the person has severe cognitive impairment and needs substantial supervision to protect their health and safety. That's the first condition. Or the person has a loss of functional capacity and cannot perform at least 2 activities of daily living. So those are called the ADLs, without substantial help for 90 days or more. So ADLs include grooming, toileting, bathing, dressing, and eating. So you are also able to deduct part of a home care worker's food cost if you have paid for these meals, okay? If you had to move to a larger home to accommodate the worker, you can also deduct part of the increased rent and utilities. Okay, this is important. So determining how much you can deduct, it really depends on your situation. So if you, your spouse, or your dependent do not meet the definition of a chronically ill patient, you will need to determine how much time a worker spent providing medical services compared to household maintenance, errands, and personal care. This is really important, okay? And so you can deduct for yourself, your spouse, and any legal dependent. So a parent or other relative can be considered a legal dependent if you provide more than 50% of their support costs during the tax year, okay? And your family member doesn't have to live with you. In other words, he or she is able to live in his or her own house, nursing home, or an assisted living facilities. So as long as you cover more than 50% of the support cost, these expenses are qualified for tax deductions. Now let's talk about expenses for the care worker, okay? And this is we're going to break down the conversation in several categories. So let's talk about tax deductions for home healthcare workers. Before you actually think about which tax write-offs you could qualify for, you need to actually think about your eligibility for write-offs. There are 2 important factors. Do you work for let's say, a staffing agency, or are you self-employed? Okay, now your answer might be yes to both of these questions. So in any case, it's important to know which expenses are tax deductible, so you can actually cut your tax bill this year. So the thing is, when we talk about a home healthcare worker, what is that? What do they do exactly? So home healthcare workers, also known as home care aides, certified nursing assistants, CNAs, and caregivers, are trained professionals who give attentive assistance to elderly, disabled, and ill patients from the comfort of their own homes. Oftentimes, a home care aide is a jack of all trades, okay? Typical responsibilities range from non-medical assistance to personal care such as bathing, dressing, getting in and out of bed, and driving to medical appointments. So this is important to have a clear idea of what we're talking about when we are speaking about the care worker. So what can an employed home care worker claim? So it really depends on your employment status. So if you work for an agency, it's likely you don't have to worry about tax deductions, right? This is exciting news, at least for those who dread filing taxes. Instead, most employers will opt to reimburse their workers for eligible business expenses such as education, if you have work-related travel, professional association dues, uniforms and other purchases, protective gear for work-related tasks. Okay, that is to say, if your unreimbursed expenses exceed 2% of your adjusted gross income, there is some kind of wiggle room to claim those expenses on your own tax return. Okay, but having said that, just remember, you will need to show proof to the IRS that your expenses are greater than the reimbursement amount. So this kind of needs some kind of expense tracking, expense monitoring. You got to keep your paperwork, your receipts, all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about self-employed home care worker write-offs. So if you work for an agency, you are reimbursed a lot of the expenses. But if you work for yourself, let's talk about that. So what can a self-employed home health care worker claim? So self-employed home care aides have an immense opportunity to save a lot of money on their tax return. So if you are in that category, I want you to listen carefully, because you can actually save a lot of cash on your tax bill. So similar to other self-employed professionals, home health care workers can claim the following business expenses, some in full and some partially. It always depends on the situation, and it depends on the proof that you have, the receipt that you have. Okay, so you can actually deduct vehicle expenses, home office deduction, internet and phone usage, cleaning and maintaining your uniform, professional association dues, and work-related travel. I'll talk about that later on. So since the IRS enforces taxpayers to separate all personal and business expenses, it is very critical to keep track of those types of deductions. So my question to you is, do you have a system in place where you can actually segregate your personal expenses from your business expenses? It's very important. For example, if you spend, let's say, 40 or 50% of your time on the phone for your client's care, you may deduct 40 to 50% of your phone bill on your tax return. All in all, filing as a self-employed individual can be tricky though, but these tax deductions can make a major impact on reducing your taxable income. Now let's talk about carer mileage. So if you are a carer, can you claim mileage as a carer? Yes. So as a home care worker, your job often goes beyond the household, right? In fact, odds are you use your personal vehicle regularly to visit clients, run errands, or take them to doctor's appointment. So as your responsibilities surpass in-home care, that means you are paying for gas, insurance, repairs, and other vehicle expenses for work-related reasons. So the good news is that self-employed home care workers can deduct this out-of-pocket expenses on their tax return. The only catch is you need to maintain accurate records. This is really important. So this means what? It means you have to keep gas receipts, repair invoices, or simply tracking mileage with a mileage log. And most tax experts will agree that claiming mileage is perhaps the easiest deduction method for vehicle expenses. Okay, so this is really important, and there are a lot of software on the market that allow you to track your mileage very easily. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another section of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. We are still having a conversation about the tax deductions for the in-home care industry, okay? And I want to talk to you now about home-based care business deductions. So that means that you are a CNA or you are a healthcare professional and you are running a home-based care business. And it's very important because you want to be in a situation where you can deduct as much as possible on your tax returns, of course, within legal boundaries, right? And it's really important now. You need to understand the thing here is that the IRS has something called the exclusive use test. So broadly speaking, you must be able to show that a portion of your home is your principal place of business and that this space is regularly and exclusively used for conducting business, especially your home-based care business. So if you don't have a dedicated space for business in your home, you're not allowed to take the home office deduction. So the IRS refers to this as the exclusive use test. Okay, so for instance, a spare room in your home that is only used as your business office can be claimed for the home office deduction. However, a bedroom or a living room where you work on business tasks cannot be claimed because you use those spaces for other personal purposes. Okay, and it's important to understand that the IRS actually pays a lot of great emphasis. They place great emphasis on this topic. So what can you deduct from your taxes as a home-based business, as a home-based care business? Well, here is a following list of items and categories that you can actually deduct if you are a home-based care business. Okay, so first we have the home-related expenses. So home office-related deductions are they're actually part of the write-offs you can actually claim, and they're all based on the percentage of your home that you use for your home-based care business. So to obtain this number, you want to divide the square footage of your office space by the total square footage of your home. So it is important that these calculations are accurate and that you only deduct the appropriate percentage of each expense, because if the IRS, God forbid, audits you, they are going to look at that. Okay, so if you meet the IRS guidelines, you can deduct the following home-based expenses for your home-based care rather. So you have homeowners insurance, homeowners association fees, cleaning services or cleaning supplies used in your business space, mortgage insurance and interest, utilities including electricity, internet, heat, and phone. You can also actually deduct repairs and maintenance. So basically, the thing here is that if you make home repairs or upgrade related directly to your business space, you may also write these expenses off on your taxes. So the amount you can write off depends on whether the expense is direct. In other words, it only benefits your home office, or indirect. In other words, it benefits your entire home. Okay, so this is really important. So you got to be clear about the difference between direct and indirect office repairs. So let's say direct. If you spend, let's say, $100 to fix a window in your home office, you may deduct the full $100 on your taxes. And indirect, if you pay, let's say, $1,000 to repair a leak in your roof, you may only deduct a percentage of that expense equivalent to the percentage of your home used for your care business. It's very important. And you may also be able to deduct expenses for long-term improvements to your home, such as a full roof replacement or room renovation, but this must be depreciated over time. So repairs, on the other hand, can be wholly deducted in a single tax year. So here are other business expenses that you can deduct with no problem. So remember, to qualify as a deductible, a business expense must be considered both ordinary and necessary, meaning the expense is common and helpful for your trade or industry. So in this case, you are in the care industry, okay? So the following expenses may be deducted on any home-based business tax return, regardless of whether you are eligible for the home office deduction. So cost of goods sold, okay? So if your home-based care business manufactures products or purchases them for resale, you can include some of your expenses to calculate the cost of goods sold. Okay, capital expenses. So those are costs that you are required to capitalize instead of deduct, because they are part of your investment in your business and are therefore considered a business asset. You also have business use of your car. I've already said that. Employee payments, if you are actually paying any third parties to kind of help you out if you are outsourcing some of the work. Retirement plans, rent expenses, interest, business taxes, business insurance, travel expenses, supplies and materials, professional services, and marketing and business development. And one thing I want to say here is that, I mean, if you take a home office deduction for your home-based care business, there are chances that you might be audited. The thing is that it is a common belief that claiming the home office deduction will automatically trigger an IRS audit. However, while the IRS rules about home office deductions are very strict, it is not automatic that you will get audited simply because you are claiming your home office. Okay, so there are measures you can take to reduce your chances of getting audited. So before taking the home office deduction, you want to make sure your business qualifies to avoid claiming any deductions you are not eligible for. And the way you do this, you want to maintain records of all your business expenses and purchases, right? And you constantly want to ensure that your residence, home office usage, and type of employment qualify for these expenses. The things we have seen in our research for the last 20 years is that the IRS has an automated systems that helps detect red flags. So what will happen here is that the system will compare, let's say, your tax situation and deductions to others in your industry. So if you claim something that others in your profession don't generally claim, the system may see this as a red flag, which could lead the IRS to investigate. Okay. Additionally, the system will flag those who claim too much space for a home office. This is important. Let me give you an example. If you claim your office space takes up, let's say, 80% of your residence, as opposed to most people in your profession claiming their home office uses 10% of their residence, the IRS could see this as a discrepancy. Therefore, they will conduct an audit. Okay, this is important. So regardless, if you decide to take the home office deduction, it's important to follow the IRS guidelines to the letter because they change somewhat frequently. So how do you calculate the home office deduction? It really depends on actually the square footage that you allocate to your home-based care business. I've said this before. People use a percentage. It can be a percentage. You can divide the square footage of your office to the total square footage of your residence. Or you can actually just take a specific area and say, listen, this area is my office. So this is what it is. Very important. Before I close today's conversation, let me give you a few accounting tips for home-based care businesses, because these tips will really help you actually lower your tax bill at year end. Okay. One thing I want to say here is accounting is incredibly important for any business, whether you are a home-based care business or, let's say, an office-based care business. Home-based business owners, they will need to pay special attention to their finances and expenses. Okay, if they want to save the most money during tax time, they must be very clear about. First of all, they must have an expense tracking system. They must have a paperwork gathering system. So I'm going to give you a few tips that you can actually apply throughout the year in preparation for tax season. You want to create, you basically want to create a separate space for your business. So if you want to take a home office deduction, ensure your workspace meets the exclusive use test that I spoke about earlier. The exclusive use test. Okay. You want to segregate business and personal expenses. So maintaining distinctly separate accounts for business finances and personal finances will keep your books clean and organized when you need to evaluate your business income and expenses. And those are really important, especially if you have to file taxes. Whether you have to file your 1065, your 1120S, or your 1120, or whether you just want to file your 1040. You always want to track all business use of personal assets. So let's say if you use assets like your laptop, cell phone, and car for both business and personal purposes, Make sure that you are keeping a record of any business use so you can properly calculate the percentage used for business. Okay, those are really important. You want to account for estimated and self-employment taxes. So unlike a traditional job in which an employer withholds taxes, Social Security and Medicare payments from an employee's check, if you are a home-based care business owner, you must pay those expenses. Okay, so sole proprietors, partners, LLCs, and S corporations are generally required to pay estimated quarterly taxes. The thing is, you can hire an accountant. You can learn a lot about accounting and tax regulations through independent online research, but there is no substitute for the advice of an experienced professional. Okay, so you can hire a CPA or an EA, an enrolled agent. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just talking to you about the top business tax credits and deductions for the in-home care industry. So we spoke about deductions and credits that are allowed for the home care clients, and those deductions and credits they're allowed for the care worker. Okay, so we spoke about care worker deductions, self-employed care worker write-offs, carer mileage, and the home-based care business deductions. Thank you so much for your attention. I'll see you next time, but until then, remember, stay marvelous.